Good evening, everybody, and welcome to BattleComm Unity. Tonight we are going to be going over the weekly news, recent events that have happened and transpired in the community of Battletech, upcoming events, and things that are new and released. Tonight I got with me Joe. I'll flip over to Joe. Joe can say hi to everybody.
How's it going? I'm filling in for Henny tonight because he's busy recovering from the demon that is late night inventory.
Yeah, so Henny had to work the extra hours, burning the midnight oil at work, so he won't be with us tonight. But tonight we do have a special guest, and our special guest is Mechanical Frog. How you doing tonight, Frog?
Doing very well. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So a few things we wanted to talk about tonight. We wanted to go over some of the Kickstarter releases that some of us have been fortunate enough to get recently in delivery. So Henny, even though he's not here, sent me with some of the boxes that he has received that we will go over with. So tonight we're going to go over, I believe it's the Assault Lance. So I'll pass that over to Joe. Joe, what do we got in the Assault Lance that's released in the new Kickstarter?
Well, why don't we start with, so in here is the Goliath, the Pillager, the Shogun, and the Hoplite. And I believe MechFrog has only covered one of these mechs in his videos, and that would be the Goliath. So let's start with that one. It's one of the original quads, right, from Technical Readout 3025.
Sure
it's
is.
80 tons. It's a PPC boat with LRM 10s. And I mean, me personally, I have no particular issue with quads. I'm not a big fan of the Goliath specifically, but I do know there's a version that gives it a Gauss rifle, and I believe that's the 3M variant, adding to the trend of 3M variants that are amazing. So I assume that it has a Gauss rifle, it's a sniper, park it behind cover, it'll be great. Given that this is the one mech out of the Assault Lance that you did, Frog, what's your favorite little quirk about the Goliath?
Well, it's hard not to like the look of it. I think that's its biggest strength. Like, ignoring the fact that the quads have trouble kind of justifying their own existences, it looks really cool, and it has since the earliest art in the 3025 book. And I'm looking at the model that's in my hand right now, and just they did a really good job kind of representing it in plastic. And it even has a little turret that turns on the top, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't even notice that the turret swiveled.
Yeah, so all of the turrets on all of the tanks and mechs that have them do have a workable turret.
Oh.
Everybody I've seen post online has removed them when they're actually painting them.
Okay.
And they are. I don't know if it's a release agent in there or maybe a type of plastic grease of some sort to keep it moist for turning. But that is in there. So they are pretty cool. The ones we've had for a year, we from last year when the Kickstarter launched, that we originally painted for the launch of the Kickstarter. They had them as well, and they turned. They're really cool.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So what else we got going on here with this Lance pack?
Next up is the Pillager. I really like the Pillager. I'm really happy that we have one now. I ran a proxy Pillager for a campaign a couple of months ago. I really wish we had the actual plastic one. It's a great mech. It's a scary mech. It's 100 tons. I think it's got a couple of Gauss rifles. It does have an XL engine, which makes it a little bit on the more fragile side. But this model's gorgeous. It's I always wondered about it because it has very defined claws on its wrists, despite not being a melee mech.
Yeah, it does have the battle fists, though. So it kind of has the...
Oh, it has the battle fists.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not particularly well versed on those advanced rules, so that makes a lot more sense, actually. What's your opinion on the Pillager, Frog?
It's solid. I mean, give anything two Gauss rifles, and it's going to be at least okay, right? So it's definitely pushing that opportunity cost graph over towards the more offense. Anytime you're adding that inner sphere XL engine, you're trading off a little bit of durability for power, and in this case, the twin Gauss rifles, and then don't underestimate the 4 medium lasers and the large laser. That just the old reliable medium laser has won many games.
Yeah, medium lasers, probably the most effective weapon in the weapon system in BattleTech. In a lot of opinions in the gaming community. The Pillager, I wish we had this one a little sooner
Yeah.
because we are running Waco versus Wolf, Havoc and Harlech at Fan Expo, and one of the guys in the last story actually piloted a Pillager. And I actually changed it out. I switched some of the stuff around because we didn't quite have it in time. I might try and paint this one up at the last minute. I got a couple of days to get it done, but we'll kind of see and go from there.
You'll make it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So next up, the Shogun. I believe, if I remember my lore about the Shogun correctly, this is one of the Wolf's Dragoon's little information errors about what they thought the Inner Sphere had. It's an 80-ton. It's an 80-ton LRM boat for the most part, outfitted also with a PPC, very long range. I have never actually used a Shogun. I haven't encountered one across the table from me either. Maybe you guys have a little bit more experience actually with the mech than I do.
I don't think I've ever fought against one, and I don't think I've ever used one actually.
Yeah, they're a Wolf's Dragoons mech in my mind. That's where I've always seen them. I've played against them. Annoying to play against, but like all assault mechs, I always find that if they're slow, you can stay out of their line of sight, and if you stay out of their line of sight, they're not going to be able to shoot at you, right? So I've never been ultimately scared of any assault mech put on the battlefield. That's I play the game. I play the game as cavalry and quick, medium, light, or very fast heavies are my thing.
See, I feel the same way. But I am absolutely terrified of assault mechs, despite having a similar playstyle to you, Paul.
Yeah.
You just have to make one mistake, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and unfortunately, that mistake is sometimes rolling badly. Finally, continuing the tradition of the Lance Pack names not being fully indicative of what's in them, we have the Hoplite, which is a 55-tonner. Reminds me much more of a Centurion than anything else. It's got an LBX-10, an LRM-5, and a whole ton of armor, or a whole 11 tons of armor. But it seems to me very function over form. It doesn't seem very splashy, but I mean, I'd take one in a second. I've just never had the opportunity, mostly because I joined the game before a lot of these mechs were out.
I believe it's another Dragoons mech, if I'm correct. Am I correct with that, Frog?
I think it's older. I think it's a Star League mech.
Star League.
A Star League mech that the Dragoons brought with them, or just
no.
Okay.
They may have something to do with the Dragoons, but I know it's pretty old.
I think it's decently stylish for a mech that I've been told to call a Roomba or a hockey puck. But how do you guys actually like it if you've ever had the opportunity to use one?
I think the look of it it's easy to kind of underestimate it, because it doesn't have the look that's like a wow factor, kind of, oh, this is a cool looking mech, but it's serviceable. I mean, it's a 55-ton mech.
It strikes me as a solid trooper, if nothing else. Well, that's the Assault Lance. Now we do have. I noticed that you did a stream, basically opening your Merc Kickstarter drop. What was it, about a week ago? Are there any mechs outside of this pack that came in with Mercenaries that you're especially excited about?
Well, being a clan guy, the 2 clan boxes are amazing. A lot of those 2Cs that we've been waiting on for a really long time to see in CGL plastic are finally here. So that's definitely what got me super excited.
I'm in full agreement with you there. I'm very happy that the Shadowhawk 2C came out recently, and actually the Phoenix Hawk 2C as well, which I think is in a completely different box. But do you have a standout out of those 10?
The Highlander 2C looks amazing, and I'm glad to see the Grizzly, even though the Grizzly's kind of overshadowed by the other 4 in the box. It's still a Grizzly, and I'm warming to the Russell Hog Dominion. So If I weren't a Jade Falcon tried and true, then I'd probably be heading in that direction.
Awesome. Yes. You want to chime in, Paul?
Yeah. So speaking being a Jade Falcon guy, I think this ties into something that came out yesterday that I saw, and that would be the trailer for Tex's new video. And because I think it has something to do with Turning Point at Twycross. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah.
Did I see that correctly?
Yeah, it's definitely going to deal with the Battle of Twycross.
So he was in that trailer. He's reciting a poem. I believe the poem. What was it? We did some research on that. What was that?
It's called "I Have a Rendezvous with Death," which is the first line of the poem, and it was written by a member of the French Foreign Legion back in 1916 by the name of Alan Seeger, and it wasn't published until after he passed away 1 year later.
Nice. So, what are your thoughts and reactions to seeing that trailer drop yesterday, Frog?
I'm just really excited to hear the story told through those eyes. Just being able to bring the story to life and kind of digging through all those nitty gritty details, and should be quite fun.
All right. So, with that, the next item we want to bring up coming up soon. This week, we've mentioned it a few times, both on Friday Night Aces and the last couple of Sunday nights. Fox Network is going to be appearing at Fan Expo August 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. While we're there, because I do a lot of the demonstrations with Aces here at Six Sides of Gaming with Lynn Vander Studios with Josh Dirksen and Tommy Gofton, we will be presenting an Alpha Strike narrative main event table twice a day at the convention. That will be obviously Aces, and we're going to do that as Wolf versus Waco, as I touched on earlier. We're going to do the second battle of Harlech, first battle of Harlech when Wolf and Waco have their final duel. We're going to base it loosely on the Paul Sajardin short story that came out in Shrapnel number 5, if I remember correctly, called "A Dish Served Cold" or "Cold." I'm probably, my old brain's not working 100% tonight. It's been a long week. So what we're going to be doing with that is actually Aces decks are going to control Jamie Wolf and Wayne Waco and their closest confidants in that story. And we're going to have our players working on both sides of the fence here. So some of them are going to be taking part as the Jager Panzers that took part in the battle with the Waco Rangers, and the other are going to be members of Alpha Regiment from the Wolf's Dragoons scattering through the city. So we're going to build a big city board. We're going to have the hiring hall there in the middle of the board, and the players are going to unlock objectives. And as they unlock objectives on the board, we're going to read them portions of the short story that was written to help teach them the lore, and then give them bonuses for reaching that goal. And ultimately, we're going to have the Aces decks control those two main forces, and they're going to fight it out in the middle while the players are both joining in that battle and fighting amongst themselves. So we're really looking forward to this. The Aces deck that is the latest iteration is very, very cool. It's very up to date. It's going to be nice to see the public getting to interact with it a little bit in a live setting. Aside from that, with Fan Expo, we'll also be doing some Dungeons and Dragons there with Lynn Vander with their Amaria release. So Devin and the guys will be there running D&D twice, 2 or 3 times a day, like we're running the Battletech main events plus the introductory tables. We'll also have the guys from X-Wing Ontario there running X-Wing for introductory games. Now, most of the stuff that we do at Fox Network, our 30th Century Fox is what we call the studio here. We don't really specialize in targeting established gamers. We don't go to what you would call gaming conventions. We go to nerd culture conventions, comic conventions, fan expos, anime conventions, places where people would have an interest in this kind of thing but aren't necessarily going there to actually play a game. We're hoping to, tap into a new generation of players. It doesn't matter if they're young or old, but it'll be their first time experiencing a tabletop game, and we try to present both the narrative play, the robots, obviously, and cool game boards. As you see that we usually use in most of our streams or at our events if you've joined us anywhere. And we want to give people that first experience of this is an inclusive environment. This is a something that is approachable. It might look complex, but we're not going to make it complex for you. We're going to teach you how to do it, and you're going to enjoy it. And then you can take it at whatever level you want from there. And we try to take it over the top. We try to be, as outrageous and outlandish as possible with our presentation. And we try to pick things that are going to be what people would consider fun, not the dry things. We want to. We call them Fox urban legends. We'll take a what they call a true canon scenario or event or a lore piece, and we'll give it a little twist, so it'll have some humor in it or have something weird. Like last year at Anime North, we added kaiju. So Henny came up with the idea. We're on Hesperus 2. We had Kincaid with the double heatsink blueprints in 3028, and on Hesperus they have their irradiated lowlands have dinosaurs or dinosaur-like creatures or something like that. He found in the lore, and we were like, okay, kaiju. We're at Anime, we're making kaiju, and we made giant kaiju, and people have probably seen the photos out there of them. If not, I will post some up on in our Discord or on any of our social medias the next couple days. Check them out. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, we want to try and bring new players into the game because ultimately I know, I'm old or getting there anyways. And, it's not going to be me and Frog and Joe and most of the guys that are out there that have been playing for 20, 30 years that are going to keep the game going. We need new people. We need new blood. I was happy tonight. My daughter actually called me and said, hey, Dad, I want to start doing a stream for Battletech with you guys with some of my friends. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect, right?
What are you doing calling me old? I'm probably closer to your daughter's age than I am to you.
So with that, with all that said, we're really trying to push the envelope and get new players involved in the game. I wanted to ask you, Frog. You do the YouTube channel. I'm new to YouTube myself. I've always done conventions and stuff. This is a learning experience for me. And my ultimate end goal is to create a community or have a community of people around us here in our immediate presence, and also around North America and around the world, ultimately, where people are kind of on the same page with what we're doing for BattleTech, what we all think is cool, and bouncing ideas off each other and having a really good time with it. What is your long-term goal? Where do you see yourself as just as a YouTuber, as a content creator, as a positive influence in the community?
Well, I think it really ties into what you were mentioning with bringing in new people. I'm very much looking at it from the point of view of a father. I'm trying to get my son more into the game. At least my older son has no interest in it, but my younger son is kind of dipping his toes in the water. We're now reading through the Battletech universe book each night before bed, so he's starting to absorb some of the lore, and that really is part of my motivation here, because Battletech has been such an important part of my life and growing up and playing the game with friends throughout middle school, high school. I really want to make sure the game continues to be a positive presence in people's lives and be successful in the long run. And if I'm going to do whatever part I can to help make that happen. And so it just ended up being in the situation where I was going to give this YouTube thing a try, and I didn't even think the first Battletech videos would do very well, and they just kind of took off. And I said, okay, well, this was a time where I was just happy to get like 20 views on a video, and it was like, wow, this Battletech video got 150 views. I'm going to make another one and see how it goes, and it just has taken off from there. So it's been a pretty amazing experience as my community grows, also kind of encouraging other people to also be creative, improving painting and even getting their own channels started, writing their own independent Battletech fiction, across the board, there's a million different ways to kind of dip your toes into the water for BattleTech, and I want to do my part to help make that happen.
We have on a very related note, we have a comment from Target Practice here who says this is where you can plug your Explorer Core MechFrog in the context of adding to the universe in a positive light, which I've actually heard. I think the last Explorer Core entry I heard was the one. Oh God, must have been 6 months ago. But it's a good set of stories if you want to.
Yeah, I was really proud of that. One of my kind of life goals was to prove that I could write a novel if I wanted to. You know, everybody has that great American novel in their brain, and one of my goals for that channel was to write it and prove I could do it, and not just to myself, but to anyone who might wander by. And so, writing that really cool story, kind of picking up in the Ill Clan era, where the main character is just she wants to bring back this really cool thing called the Explorer Core, and go out and discover something new in the universe. And she and her crew just have all sorts of interesting adventures, meet some curious people, and learn a few things along the way, and maybe lose a few people along the way as well. But overall, I was really happy with how the story turned out, and got to share some characters that had been bouncing around in my brain for a few years, and hopefully people enjoy it.
I definitely enjoyed it, and honestly, I'm glad a lot of other people do too, because it's the kind of content that really needs to be out in the BattleTech ecosystem. We can't be talking about the variants of the same, even if we cover every mech. We can't all just be talking about the same variants forever. And having fiction like New Explorer Core was I very much liked it, and I'm glad it's doing well.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's really important as the community grows and the game continues to grow, that people create their own stuff, because CGL can only produce official things as fast as they can, and fans consume the content faster than it can be created. And I know there's really creative people out there who have stories that want to be told, and it may not be official canon, and that's fine. But if you share a story and someone else enjoys it, then it's probably worthwhile.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with headcanon. Look, one of the greatest things about BattleTech is Mercenaries. I think Mercenaries. I think I saw a poll recently online. Somebody asked, what faction do you play? And Mercenaries, I think, were 20%. There was almost 1,000 votes, and I think 20% of the reactions were Mercenaries, whether a major, minor, or self-made faction. And that gives a testament to the creative vibe that BattleTech has. Like these boxes here, the Mercenaries Kickstarter, taps into that. Like the rules in there are for creating a Mercenaries campaign, and people love to have their canon, their own canon, head canon, color schemes and characters. Look how popular it was on the first Clan Invasion Kickstarter. Here, if you pay X, you get to make up your own character, and the response was overwhelming to the point where they probably got enough characters to write another 100 years worth of fiction. So it really shows the strength out there of what people are looking for creating their own thing. And now you got other releases coming out in the near future here. You got the I think the Hinterlands source book is going to come out. That I think that's got even more advanced rules or a carry on of what is released in the Mercenaries Kickstarter boxes. And then ultimately down the road, you're going to have Mech Warriors Handbook, I believe is what it is. It's going to be more campaign creation toolkits out there. So these are all things that tap into that, players like to make their own stories. And I think it's great that Catalyst creates the macro level story, and then players are there to create their own parts of that universe by typing in their own little micro portion of the universe.
Yeah, one of my favorite things in the Mercenaries box was the employment contract, the Merc contract. So it's just blank. You kind of fill in the blanks. That's really cool. I like that.
Your thoughts?
Well, tell me about it. I haven't received mine yet. So what can you describe that particular contract thing?
I just sort of glanced at it, but it looked like a blank Merc employment contract. So you can kind of fill in the details of what the name of the Mercenary group and how much you're being paid and what the salvage rights are. But it looks like an employment contract. It's kind of cool.
Okay, I run a few games out of where I am. I'm probably going to abuse that a fair bit for whenever we start up a new string of missions to do.
So let's talk some painting here. Myself, I'm a terrain guy. Frog, you make a bunch of videos. They're wonderful. You talk about the lore while you're painting. What is it that you enjoy about painting the most? And what techniques do you obviously like to employ? What's your go-to?
Well, I really like just kind of making my own. I know there's all the official schemes out there, but I really like doing my own thing and painting stuff, just kind of seeing what happens when you mix two colors together. And you kind of start with a plan with, okay, I know I'm going to use this color and this color, but the actual specifics of what it's going to look like, you don't really know until you're done. Sometimes that makes recording it for a video interesting because you start down a road and realize it doesn't work and you have to backtrack. Yeah. And go like, okay, well, that was a terrible plan. We got to start all over again, but that's okay. But yeah, it's been awesome seeing so many amazing artists take on the mechs just in the past couple of years, because the level of painting has been amazing. Like talking with the Camo Specs guys and working with them on some of these videos, just being able to represent the mechs in a way that we've always kind of imagined them in our heads and bringing that as close as you can on the table it's been amazing.
Cool.
How many different schemes after the ones that you've experimented with have you decided to go forward that you got running concurrently? I kind of jumbled that a bit. How many paint schemes do you have going concurrently?
I have probably close to 650 mechs or so. My largest groups of a single paint job, I've got the classic Jade Falcon green and yellow. I've got my Steel Falcons, which are kind of painted to steel color, and then they have a wash over the top, and then I have their legs are kind of shaded in with a Jade from Pro Aquarel, which is a transparent color. And I kind of airbrush it on and do a transition to metal. Let's see. Third largest would probably be the new Explorer Core. All my new Inner Sphere mechs I've just been painting in my new Explorer Core scheme, which is kind of they look a little bit like Comguard, but they've got metallic blue paneling. So they kind of have their own little. That force is going to get much bigger here after the Mercenary mechs get painted, of course. But then the rest of them are kind of random. Sometimes I just have a lance of silly things that I did for a video, or So it from the 10,000 foot view, it just looks like a hodgepodge, except for the kind of larger groups.
I figured you'd discount the stuff you'd make just for a video, but yeah, I mean, I've seen your new Explorer Core stuff. I didn't know the blue was metallic, which definitely lends them a lot of personality. Makes them look a lot less like Lyran's or whatever else is blue and white. So
you're a Falcon guy. So my question to you, you've been playing for a while like me. What eras are you playing? What are you finding fun in these days? What's getting your creative juices flowing? What eras are getting you there for painting? Not only that, but also playing on the table.
Traditionally, probably the Clan Invasion and where I'd be hanging out in the 3050s. My favorite mech is from the 3058, the Ebon Jaguar, so I love using that, and anytime I can have an excuse to bring it out. And then I'm also kind of leaning into the Ill-Clan stuff, where I want to try out the new weapons, the new armor. All of it feels so new. There's some good opportunities for fun for people who are willing to be brave and step out of their comfort zone. I know we all know that one person who is steadfast and the timeline ends in 3039. I'm sorry, I can't play them. Yeah. So I
20-year
say,
report ruined everything.
yeah, take a breath, calm down, try just this one new thing, and you'll see if you like it. Try the plasma rifle, try this armor type, and see if it works out for you. And I bet I get most of the time they'll say, okay, I see some value in this.
Yeah, like the new universe book and the force manuals that we talked about last week. They're really bringing me up into the modern eras. I've never been completely against them. I just never invested myself in and spent the time and effort to go through it, because it's a lot of reading in some cases. And of course, I'm a source book guy, right? So sometimes, even when you're just reading source books, things can be disjointed, especially when there's a lot of information to read. And I think that universe book really brought me into liking the new stories. It brought it all together and it made sense. And now it makes me want to deep dive into into those certain source books with the narrative and with all the details in it.
Yeah, the biggest challenge I think is just the Blakist kerfuffle era where all of our source books are written in an unreliable narrator, and so it's really hard to figure out what actually happened. And it drove me batty, and it was why I took such a long break after those books started coming out. But thankfully, the universe book, like you mentioned, is going to help bridge that gap. And hopefully people will give this new stuff a chance, because I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I was going to segue a little bit off of his brief mention of the plasma rifle a couple of sentences
We can
ago.
talk about the plasma rifle all night if you want.
Well, that's actually so. We'll truncate it a little bit just for our own sake. But how much of your love of the plasma rifle is you playing it up? How much of it is a genuine love of the thing, and how much of it is you genuinely would put it on every single mech if you could?
There have been cases where I didn't put it on the MF versions of things, but that's usually, it is played up a little bit just because the audience kind of expects it at this point. But
yeah,
I genuinely like it because it adds an element to the game that forces the other player to not always min-max. I think, and I'm personally not a big fan of kind of min-maxing the heck out of games. And so anything that can kind of throw a wrench into the plan of, I have this lance and it's completely unbeatable. I've got my energy build and it's perfect. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and nothing can get in my way until they meet the plasma rifle or a plasma cannon or inferno rounds even. And suddenly they have to consider, okay, now what do I do when I've got 8 heat that I didn't expect? And just can really throw a wrench into plans. And I like that. And yeah, so I like those little ways to keep people on their toes.
If it don't get mad at me, I've never fired a plasma rifle in a game in my life since 1990.
I can make it worse.
I have never used one. Never.
I can make it worse, Paul. You just mentioned people who have their one unbeatable lance. Paul has gone off at length about his one unbeatable lance that it takes entire companies to bring down. Yep. So yeah, I'll bring a plasma rifle or 4 to deal with that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the game has a bunch of different metas, and all of them work. That's the thing I like about BattleTech the most is there's no one way that's the best. I think if you achieve any strategy by maximizing your redundancy and maximizing your number of dice you can put out there and consistently putting yourself at better percentage odds than your opponent, it doesn't really matter what your strategy is. As long as you're good at doing it and you're capable of doing it, you're going to have fun, you're going to have success on the table. And the next good thing about BattleTech is that even when you fail, if you watched our stream last night, it's hilarious. Like you can't have sour grapes when you get head capped over completely winning a game and then just get your head blown off. Like it is what it is. It's fantastic. It's a story you get to take home and talk about 10 years later, right?
That's really it. It's the stories that come about from games. That's why I play tabletop games in general, and BattleTech's really good for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that part of that value is just the smaller scale, because you have maybe a lance that you're playing with. you tend to identify more with those units on the table versus larger war games where you might have 150 units on the table and any one of them disappearing doesn't bother you. But if it's your Marauder that you are like, okay, that's my Marauder, I'm in that mech, and then it gets head capped and you're like, oh, well, I guess that's not my Marauder anymore. Now it's somebody else's salvage. I don't know what to tell.
I mean, I have named every single model in a 150 model army before, but maybe I'm an outlier there.
Well, Frog, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight with us. It is Sunday night, so we'll keep things short, sweet, and get everybody rolling home because we do have to work in the morning. But is there anything you would like to ask us? Is there anything you want to know about myself or Joe, or even like with Six Sides of Gaming, or any of the things that we do out there?
Good question. I was curious. I asked that question. What would you tell someone who feels a little bit frustrated with the path that the Kickstarter took with kind of redemptions? Like, what can you offer them some hope so that they can go and say, all right, that was rough, but now we have the kind of, I can look forward to this. And I'm not saying like divulging sort of the secret information or anything like that, but just what can people look forward to with what you're doing here with Six Sides for BattleTech?
So I can speak personally on it. Like I haven't received my Kickstarter, and that's not Catalyst's fault. Look, I run a $300 million logistics company. That's what my day job is. I understand how things move in this business, and not everything's perfect. And at the end of the day, they're toys. So getting ourselves upset over somebody got it before me or whatever, who cares? You're gonna get them. You're gonna get to paint them. You're gonna get to play with them, right? So you don't find yourself in sour grapes because you took part in being a part of the solution to bring these cool things to the rest of the world and the rest of the community. Take that from it first and foremost. If you back the Kickstarter, you helped make it happen. That's the most important thing. You helped make it happen for future generations to get to play the game. You helped make things like these box sets become what is considered evergreen for companies, where they can make them long term. They'll always sit on game store shelves as long as people are playing them and buying it, and people always have access to it. Just remember, when the game was not as popular as it always was, it was hard to get miniatures in certain areas in the world. And then the game became popular and everybody wanted it, and it was still hard to get them. And now we're in a position, because we're 2 Kickstarters in, the community came together to help make that happen, that we can go into pretty much any game store. You can even go into Target now. You can go into Barnes & Noble, which is not in Canada, but,
neither is Target.
Well, not anymore. They got run out of here by Walmart, but that's a whole other thing. But you can go into these department stores, the big box stores, and you can see BattleTech, and you can get it. And that exposes the game to not just gamers now. It exposes it to parents at Christmas time, at birthday time, any celebration where you're buying gifts, and they go into the toy section, they see cool robots, and the kids see the cool robots, and they're like, what's that? Now, they might be a little on the young side, but it plants the seed. And then in a few years, they see Batman as a cartoon, right, when they're kids, and then Batman, the rated R version of the movie, is $1 billion movie, right? And that's because the seeds were planted at a young age. So anybody who's upset, don't be. We have a wonderful game. We have a wonderful community. Let's always try to be positive with this, and let's try to keep focused on the fact that we're having fun. BattleTech is our hobby and our stress relief. It's not our point of stress, and it should never be. It should always be something that brings happiness in your life, and in the lives of those around you that partake in the community with you. I'll let Joe answer his portion of it then.
Mine's a lot simpler. This happens with all Kickstarters. There's always delays. Things always take time like this. This is not the outlier. This is the rule.
Yeah, Yeah, it's.
Sounds like
I
a
don't.
healthy way to look at it.
Pardon?
Sounds like a healthy way to look at it all.
Yeah.
So with that said, we'll flip back here onto the camera. I'm playing musical camera tonight. I've had a long week. I got staff on vacation. I've had people sick. I've just I've had a long week, and my brain's just not 100%. I'd like to thank you again, Frog, for being here tonight with us. I look forward to having you on Friday Night Aces with us to play a game in the near future.
Sounds like a plan.
So this week, for those watching, we will not have a typical Friday Night Aces because we are at Fan Expo this weekend. What we are going to do is we're going to take a camera or two with us, and we are going to record some content there that we will then edit and narrate with all the players at for the players at the convention, and we'll release that on YouTube in a couple of weeks so people can see what happened and can see the cool setup that we've built and made. Aside from that, there won't be another Sunday night show, I don't think, for next weekend because we'll still be in teardown mode from the convention and coming back to the studio with all the stuff. That said, we do have games running still every weekend. So every Monday, we are playing up at Sir Games a Lot in Barrie. Joe and Henny run a campaign up there with about 12 to 15 people every Monday night, give or take. We have a regular game going on with Jesse and Andre from the CDT down at the Hairy Tarantula in downtown Toronto every Wednesday night. That's getting a fairly big turnout now too. It's getting 5 to 8 people. That's a fairly new thing. That's only been going on for maybe about 5-6 weeks, which is cool. I do run a game at the Albion. We're taking a little bit of a break. We're going to fire that up again after Labor Day weekend. Once we get everything con season, the last push of con season finished, anyways, and then we'll get back to running a regular campaign there. And of course, Friday Night Aces. Other than this week, we're on every Friday night, and then Sunday nights here running the show. So again, I'd like to thank you. Thank you, Frog. If there's got any last words or anything you want to say before we call it an evening.
Be awesome. Make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.
Alrighty, Joe, what are you up?
That's it. That's it for me. I can't top MechFrog's closer.
Well, thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday night and your weekend, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks.